Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel, Channeling Jesus and Ananda. This is another episode in our series, How to Save Your Life. Today, I'm with Alyss Thomas, and Alyss is a lady that I have met through my work, and we met at a retreat in England first, I think, didn't we? Yes, we did. So I've known Alyss for a few years. I've done some mentoring with her, and she's kindly agreed to tell us her Course in Miracles stories. So how are you doing today, Alyss?
I'm great, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be with you today.
Yes, it's awesome to, and I was commenting on your beautiful artwork. Alyss is an artist, and that's one of her paintings behind her.
She mine, but
oh, isn't it? Oh, okay. Giving you credit where it's not due. Okay. It's still beautiful. Okay, so I ask 5 questions in these interviews. And so at the 4th and 5th question, you can kind of go into more of the effect it's had on you and that kind of thing. So how long have you been doing A Course in Miracles, Alyss?
that's a kind of really hard question to answer because I've been doing it a bit for about 20 years, but I didn't treat it seriously until I came across your work. And because I used to read it and then I didn't always used to understand it.
Right.
I've recognized the voice in it really called me. It's something beautiful in that voice that just
Yes.
resonated with me for a long time. But I used to leave it and not do anything with it for years at a time. And then I came across your very, very early videos, and the way that you put it across just made it all come together. It just made sense. You kind of gave me some keys.
Right.
And
So that was what, 5 years ago, maybe?
6, 7 years ago now, maybe.
Oh, okay.
No, quite a long time. And just your very, very early videos. Do you remember?
Yes. Yes, I see them. They pop up. It's very interesting having that time record of your haircuts and appearance and clothes and all that stuff.
So I've just always felt very connected to the way the voice works through you. It just makes sense, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe we're both English, but the way you speak is very clear and very direct, and I just get it, you know.
Right.
So it completely lifted my life immediately, really.
Awesome. So why did you start doing a course? Do you remember what your motivation was originally, or?
Well, I've always been interested in esoteric spiritual things, and I've always been looking for something spiritually, you know, real to get my teeth into, to have a real practice. I've tried lots of different things and none of them really quite worked.
Right.
And also there's something in that book that just fascinates me.
Yeah, I think if it's your message, I think if it's your language, the course is sort of, you can't get rid of it in a way. Like once it's come into your life and it's on your bookshelf, I think it's really hard for someone to throw it away. I've talked to people who've had it on their bookshelf, got rid of it, and then it's come again to them some other way. Someone gifted it or they saw it at a garage sale or something, and it's sort of like it's just sitting there waiting for you.
Yeah, I had that. I had a copy I got rid of, you know, 30 years ago or something. And then I just had this thing in my mind, you know, get A Course in Miracles again, you know, get it again, you know.
Yeah.
Picked up a copy, didn't know why, you know.
The voice in your head was telling.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing about guidance, right? Like Jesus talks about it a lot. That if there's a quiet, repetitive voice that's guiding you towards something, like the ego's voice is loud and raucous and like, don't do that, do this. But spirit guidance is often like that. It's like, I don't know why I bought it, but I had this urge, right? And it's not really us doing it. It's sort of that connection to spirit doing it.
And since then, I've more and more recognized that kind of guidance where things just drop in like a pearl dropping into water. It's quite simple. It's quite quiet.
Yes.
And this idea, you know, which comes out of nowhere.
And often you go, well, you know that that's not my idea because I wouldn't do that.
Why would I suddenly think, you know, I've got to go and buy this book, that book, you know?
Yeah, totally. What was your experience of doing the lessons? When did you do them? Have you done them more than once?
Well, I'm one of those people who's very undisciplined around the lessons. So I've done the whole lot once, and I keep trying to do them again, but I kind of usually end end up wavering, and then I kind of I'm going through it again very slowly, you know.
You'll be happy to know I've only ever done them once.
Yeah.
I've never been guided to do them a second time. What I did after the first year of lessons was I kept reading the text.
Yeah.
So I read the text about 25 times.
Yeah, so I just keep reading the text, because every time I pick up the text, it seems like a different book, like some other completely startling thing that I've never heard of before suddenly arrives, which I'm sure wasn't there before.
Right. Well, maybe it wasn't. We don't actually know these days what's our objective reality is, you know.
So it's completely startling and amazing as a book. I mean, it's like, it's so satisfying, you know. I often only read about 3 or 4 pages in a day. That's enough, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your experience of doing the lessons, having this sort of thing that you have to repeat, and then it gets more and more complicated as you go through more and more times? How did you find that?
A bit resentful of that and fed up of that, and, you know, having my work to do around, you know, being disciplined and remembering, you know, not forgetting. So
well, I remind people all the time that it's a training program. It actually in the beginning just shows us how we have no discipline.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And discipline is a thing which is important, because I remember that thing on the live stream the other week where, you know, if you like reading the text, you like being a free explorer, and if you like doing the lessons, you like the discipline, you know.
Yes. And not everybody likes both.
No. So I try and do both, obviously.
Now, do you find that you have some of those lessons in your mind, though, as a go-to response if if you can feel yourself going off track?
Oh, lots of them. Yeah, like, for example, I'm under no laws but God's. That's a very useful one at the minute, you know. You know, things like that, you know.
Right.
You know, or God goes with me everywhere I go, or I could see peace instead of this.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm not a body, I'm free is a big one for me, because I've had a lot of body dysmorphia issues over the years. And as soon as I get into that body thing, that's where I go to that one.
Yeah. So there's many things like that just drop in that are so helpful, just kind of help hold you steady sometimes.
Right. Are you aware of where you, how do you become aware that you've kind of gone off track? What's your red flag that you're like, oh, I'm not thinking correctly here?
Feeling gloomy, grungy, eating too much, being depressed, thinking something's my fault, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's different for everyone. Because it's a process of evolution, right? As the more time you spend with this work, the less those things happen. That's what I found, is that I have a very peaceful mind now, and I don't get easily depressed or go into the doldrums at all. Not everyone knows what in the doldrums means, I realized. Carol told me, she's like, I said, I'm in the doldrums. She said, where's that? I said, oh, sorry, it's an English thing. But I notice as life gets better, which it does, and we can go into that a bit more in detail, as I've eliminated the things that I don't want to do in my life, as I realize that I'm a free being and I can choose how I want to live, those gloomy times just seem to be very infrequent for me. Do you find them decreasing for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a period recently where, so obviously something's up for me at the minute, which I need to explore, but on the whole, all of that is gone, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I used to feel, you know, not good enough, afraid of being alone, you know, scared of dying. None of that exists at all, you know.
And those are huge things, right? In modern Western society, those are like 3 big fears for people.
And it sounds like nothing, you know, to say that I used to be always afraid I wasn't good enough, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't really think that now. I'm just myself. I'm just not anybody else.
That's right. You're Alyss. Yeah. Okay. Question number 4, what transformations have you experienced doing A Course in Miracles? And feel free to go into examples where you've seen a massive change Yeah, just tell us some really juicy things about how this has transformed your life.
Well, all kinds of things. I think I used to have a fear of not being able to express myself, and I do a lot of self-expression art and writing and creativity, which I absolutely love. And I no longer feel that I should put my serious work before that, that is as valuable as paid work, you know.
Right, right.
That was a big thing for me, really big.
Finding or appreciating your creative expression.
Yeah, and valuing that highly, because it is so important to me, you know.
Yeah.
Giving that priority, you know, and it went against everything in my whole kind of family background, that you should always be working hard at earning a living. So,
Yeah, totally.
so that's been a wonderful thing. And I think the whole idea in Course in Miracles that your life is for you and it's not against you,
Mm-hmm.
that everything that comes is for your benefit, is there's something in that for me to learn and to understand, rather, and so whatever challenge might come, there's something I can kind of benefit from it, and it's not just some random cruelty.
Yes.
No.
It's not a why me. Yeah, you're not a victim of the world. And that's
Yeah.
it's a huge mindset shift for course students, right? This idea that our life is reflecting our consciousness, and whatever it's showing us is something we need to see, good, bad, and indifferent. Because if it's bad, quote unquote bad, it's reflecting back to us something where we are holding a negative belief, a fearful idea, whatever it is, you know. And I've certainly seen that in my life for sure.
And that's been so helpful to see that. It's been absolutely brilliant, really, because it means no matter what is happening, there's a way through it.
Right,
You
right,
know, and so all it takes is some courage and to be present. You don't have to worry about anything.
right.
And I think that's just been amazing. And then I guess the thing that I expect miracles now.
And you get them.
And they bloody well happen, you know.
Do you want to share that story you just told me about your house?
Yeah, I bought this little country cottage, which is my like holiday home, and I really bought it because I fell in love with it. It just turned up, and then it had no land attached to it, which was a pity. And then a couple of years later, this patch of land opposite came up for sale, and I was able to buy it, and it's just made me really happy because I'm turning it into a beautiful wild garden. You know,
And so, yeah, this miracle there's no way you could have predicted that, right?
no way, no.
But your true desire was to have a garden.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, the miracle mindedness is miracles eliminate the need for time and that sort of Newtonian physics of I have to figure out how to make it happen. And I think that's the similar thing happened with me when I bought my house, because my son wanted to do a renovation project and I was looking to buy a house and I had a certain amount of money, which was not a lot where I live. And this house came up that was a rat-infested hoarding house. But there was a bit of a buying frenzy about it because it was so cheap. It was $499,000. And that was just an unheard of price on the island at that time. So we looked at it and my son I said to him, can you fix this? Because he wanted to do a major renovation for his portfolio. And he said, yes, I can fix anything. So I was like, okay. Anyway, we didn't look at the land or anything. And so we put an offer in, we got it. And the day after the offer was accepted, we went up onto the back of the property. It was 3 acres. And we looked around and we went, holy cow, this is beautiful. And we hadn't even looked at it. And now I've turned it into a big garden. I had no intention of keeping it. I had every intention of just flipping it when the renovation was done. And it turns out that it's actually a really spectacular piece of property, 2 minutes from town, 3 acres, sunny. But we never even looked at it when we bought it. It was, truly a miracle. Yeah. So that's very exciting. I'm reiterating the garden story because I'm an avid gardener, so I truly understand the miracle of finding a garden.
When you get to have a piece of land and you can plant things on it, you know, it's such an amazing process. You know, I absolutely love plants, you know.
Yes. Well, and even putting in your favorite tree or your favorite grapevine, these things that are like, they're long-term projects, right? But with the course training, you don't have that sort of, I don't think you have that impatience. You sort of, you just see now, oh, now this is a new relationship. This garden now is a relationship that you're having, right?
Yeah. I've planted 35 or 40 trees and you know.
Oh, you're going for it.
They may not even come up until after I've died, but who cares, you know? Yeah.
It'll be a beautiful garden for someone.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
So, where have you seen relationships transform?
Well, I think a lot of relationships have just fallen away where I was being a people pleaser, or I was having to suppress myself, or it didn't feel very happy. Those relationships have kind of mainly gone. There's very few of those left.
Right.
And where relationships have really been so interesting to me are in my psychotherapy practice, where, because that is really like a holy relationship,
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah.
you know. And so the idea of psychotherapy, the way I see it, as kind of informed by A Course in Miracles, is so different to the normal idea that, you know, somebody gets healed by somebody who's okay.
Right. So, you wanted to talk about this subject particularly because you are a psychotherapist, and Helen Schuckman, the person who channeled the course, was a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
she was a
psychologist.
psychologist. Oh,
Yeah.
what's the difference between a psychologist and a psychotherapist?
Well, a psychologist does a specific training, which is, you know, in a way more academic, if you like, and it's based on specific ideas around psychology, whereas psychotherapy, the way we practice it in England anyway, is more, it's more practical, really. It's more about being, it's more relational.
Okay, so it's like I'm scared of going outside, and you help them get over that fear, for example.
Well, yeah. And so to look at that fear, you'd explore that in lots of different ways, but in the territory of the relationship. And so every client that comes brings the gift of healing to you. It's not just about them.
That's a very different point of view, right?
Yeah.
Than most therapists. They wouldn't think their clients are for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, because I didn't make this happen, you know, patients, clients come to me, and nothing to me, that just happens, and then I just have to respond. And it's all about really helping both of us to remove guilt and obstacles, whatever is in the way of love, really.
How does that change your practice for as a therapist, psychotherapist, when you're thinking about, oh, this person has come to me for healing and they're going to help me heal something? Do you then watch more carefully the subjects that are coming up and how you respond or react to them? Like, how does that work?
I just listen carefully and just try and get out of the way, you know, and try and listen. And then things come to me. If I get out of the way, now I just pay attention. If you're both just focused on the well-being of this person, if you just focus on the client, both of you focusing on that person, that in itself creates a kind of field.
Right.
And that in itself is incredibly powerful, as long as I don't think it's anything to do with me.
Okay. Awesome. So, as a psychotherapist and a Course in Miracles student, what would doing a Course in Miracles, how would a Course in Miracles help somebody if they're struggling with depression or things like that? Not that you're giving medical advice, but what kind of thing do you think it would help them with if people are having a hard time? I mean, I have my opinion of it, but I want yours.
Yeah. So it's like starting with accepting them as they are,
Okay.
and and trying to remove the idea that there's something wrong with them, and that
Okay.
I need to enjoy being with them.
Right.
And if I can find a way to really be with them and appreciate and enjoy them, and share with them and just be present, then in a way the problem solves itself. So I'm not focusing on their symptoms all day long.
Right.
So it's a very different approach. I'm not going, oh no, you've got depression, we've got to this, that, and that, you know, and you must stop. Because all you do then is drive the person further into it.
Yes. Which
Like
is the traditional way of treating things, right? Is talking about it all the time.
yeah, it's like if you've got an eating disorder, if you just keep thinking about food all day long, you'll never heal it. Yeah.
Right.
You have to think about something different to food. And, so
with depression, it would be think about things that make you happy.
yeah, and what lights you up, you know, what are the good things in your life, where's your creativity? I often really try and get people to express their creativity in whatever way I can get them to do that.
Right.
Really encourage them in that, encourage them in everything that is working in their life, to get them to look at that and stop dwelling on all the ways in which they think that they're bad or no good.
Right.
And try to, because you have to work in layers and stages with people, because you can't just like immediately heal anyone because they couldn't cope with it.
No. Well, a lot of people become identified with being depressed. For example, I remember years ago, I lived with somebody, he was a friend of mine, and his identity was being sad and depressed. And it was like he couldn't do the course because it was asking him to relinquish something that he actually valued.
Yeah.
Like the depression and the suicidality, I think allowed him to get away without doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
It kind of gave him a pass to say no to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And the course, as it starts to empower you, because this is one of the reasons I love the course, is that it's so empowering and the language is so loving and affirming. Yeah. That's the voice that then starts to inhabit your mind, instead of the ego's voice of, oh, you're too this, you're not enough that, or you're never going to be the ego's voice is so judgmental and obviously guilt-inducing. It judges you and you feel guilty. But the course voice is just, it makes you feel valuable as you are.
Yeah, and kind and motivating at the same time. So it's not
Yes.
kind in a mushy sense, but kind in a kind of, you know, here you go, you know, you can do it.
Well, what just popped into my mind is the idea of a little kid learning to walk, right? Yeah. Like a little kid learning to walk doesn't know how to do it. It's kind of scary. But as a parent, what you do is like, you can do it, and you put your arms out and you're like, come on, you can do it. And if they fall down, you're like, oh, that's okay, we'll try again. But to me, that's the course, is in some ways being that loving, encouraging parental figure that most of us never had.
Exactly, and that's not a hard thing to do when you can sit in there. Like if a child falls down when it's learning to walk, you don't say, get up, you stupid dummy.
No, but we'll say that to ourselves.
That's what most adults say to themselves all day long.
Yes, yes.
And so that's a really good analogy. It's like it's learning how to be yourself again in a world that you were never taught how to do that. And I really, really feel how hurt and traumatized people have been by their conditioning,
yes,
by their education system, by their family backgrounds, by a society that is so brutal and so uncaring and so unloving that it doesn't take much just to offer some light into that dark place.
Yes.
And that immediately helps people feel better. Just a little bit of light helps them feel better, because at our heart we are all beings of light.
Yes.
But that gets obscured by everything we've been mistaught. And so if you just create a space where a tiny bit of light can get in, that's all you need.
Yes, and that is our nature, and that's really what the course is teaching, right? Is you're a child of the divine. You're made in the image of the divine, and most people think, well, no, I'm not, because they can't feel it. And I think, you know, when I first started the course, the reason I stuck with it is because I started to feel better.
Yeah,
you know, exactly. And I attempted suicide when I was a young woman. I had a very negative, judgmental mind, and a lot of it was focused on me. And the reason I stuck with it and was such a dedicated student is the more I did it, the better I felt and the more my life changed. And it's sort of this self-perpetuating thing where once you actually start, you think, oh my God, I can feel my life is changing. I would get these periods of peace of mind when I first started the course, and I had never experienced it before. And I'd be like, what is going on? My mind is quiet. I don't know did you have that experience in the beginning?
I think I've always had bits of it. I've always had periods of very deep, beautiful peace and joy. I've always had that.
Oh, see, I was in the remedial class, Alyss. I never had that.
But I had some other stuff that would get in the way of that, which I thought I had to pay attention to. So it's like
Right.
putting all that stuff away again.
Yeah.
Like in the family, I grew up in a family who was very militantly atheist, you know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They get really angry with me for being spiritual and sensitive. They really think I'm a waste of space when I do that.
Gosh. Well, yeah. And then so growing up in a family that thinks you're a waste of space when you're being yourself, that's pretty hard to live with, isn't it?
It's really weird because I couldn't be any other than what I am, you know.
Well, we can try, but it doesn't go very well.
No. And so the course has given me the strength to say, well, hang on a minute, it's okay. I am going to be the way I am.
Yeah.
And I'll even go on YouTube and talk about it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a huge thing though. I think, my experience of a suicide attempt was basically behavior that demonstrated that I couldn't live with myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't live with myself and I didn't like myself, and it was really awful. But that's, of course, why I've done this work, is because I know how, even in a relatively benign looking family in our society, we're very traumatized.
Yeah.
We're very traumatized.
Really. Yeah. I think the trauma goes deeper than most people kind of realize, because it's all kind of so normal. It's,
Yep.
everyone's pretty much got some. And so we don't think anything of it. But as soon as you start to take the trauma conditions away, you see how people flourish so quickly.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Any other transformations that you've experienced that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I've been in the process of giving up my university work. I'm just going to give it up, and and I'm just going to
what was your university work you were teaching?
Teach psychotherapy on these MA programs. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been a lot of very hard work and very serious. And I mean, it's good work in a sense, but it now feels like I'm going to let that go. I'm just going to run my practice, be an artist, and run a garden.
And a garden. Gardening takes a lot of time, Alyss.
It certainly does. Yeah. Especially when you're starting in a virgin garden from scratch. It's like,
absolutely, yes.
There's nothing there but mud and weeds. I spent the entire winter digging up brambles by hand.
I do have a little piece of advice. Wait until it's dry and get someone in with a digger. I did this I had half an acre of blackberries. And at the end of last summer, I got someone in with a digger and she moved it in 2 days. I got half an acre of land back.
It's not possible the way it's set up to do that.
No. It's too boggy, hey, it's too wet.
And they're all around in a hedge around the edge. So if you dug that up, there wouldn't be anything left,
Oh, right, okay.
So
yeah, my land was cleared. It actually used to be a gravel pit, apparently. So that it's very sandy, gravelly soil here. So it's been interfered with previously. So yours is a bit more natural here.
Well, all land has been interfered with, as far as I can tell, but it's heavy clay, it's heavy wet clay. So that has its own particular kind of discipline to it, because you have to kind of work with it to lighten it up,
Right. So you're freeing yourself. So what percentage would you say you're going to have of your time? You're going to have 40% more time?
30% more time, but also the headspace as well, because I won't be thinking about these complex ideas and complex student needs and the complexity of working in an organization.
So you're accessing more freedom.
Yeah, and I want to write some more books, I think. Yeah,
Fabulous, fabulous. It's
yeah.
awesome.
Um,
So, anything else you want to share? The
well,
transformations that it's given you?
I think it's just really hard to put into words how joyful life can be, and how, if you're responsible for yourself, that you're free, and you don't have to think like anybody else, and you don't have to do what everybody else does, and
Which
that
has really come up in spades in the last 4 years, obviously. So,
yeah.
over the whole COVID thing, how did the Course in Miracles help you? The training that you've had through A Course in Miracles, can you see where it shifted your
I mean,
experience?
I didn't have any doubt as to how I wanted to respond to that and how I wanted to be. It was just really clear to me.
Yeah.
No,
So there
I didn't.
wasn't any internal negotiation, because that's what I found. I didn't have any, oh, should I do this or that? I was like, absolutely not.
None. My only difficulty was being with so many people who thought differently to me and
Yes.
thought I was insane. But
But you know you're sane now, you see.
I don't know if I'm sane, but I'm less insane.
Yeah. No, that's true. I always jokingly say that when people's egos are triggered, that they're temporarily insane. They're insane for 3 days
Yeah,
and are not responsible for what they're doing or saying.
yeah, indeed, yeah.
And
So
do you find the studying of the course has really helped you? It has for me, really understand other people's behaviors. Like if a family member, for example, says something really hateful to me or is behaving in a way that's unacceptable as far as I'm concerned in terms of what I want to experience, that I can actually see that their mind is disordered, their thinking is disordered, which means their behavior is going to be disordered, but it's not who they are. It
it's
doesn't
not.
mean you're going to put up with it necessarily, but you can actually see past it to the, oh, there's a soul, a divine being behind all that.
I think it's very important to see everyone like that.
Yeah.
Because people do act bonkers, but underneath it all, there is a human being underneath all of that.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to accept people as they are, don't you? But I don't
Well,
take it.
most people don't, Alyss.
I don't ever take it personally. And the other
Yeah.
thing I've really noticed is that I do understand. I don't know why, but it's made my mind work better. It's really interesting to me. I understand things more quickly, all kinds of things.
Yes.
All kinds of different things I understand. And I get ideas that come to me, and I understand people's motivations, and I get things very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And things that I didn't used to understand, I now get them.
I
And
think it's because Jesus refers to the lessons as a clarification process. And
yeah,
as we practice them, we are clarifying our minds, which means that they are clearer, that they are functioning better. All of the ego stories and the self-deprecating inner talk or attacking other people, all of that stuff that disappears, it creates space for good things, right?
it's brilliant. Yeah, and I really love that. I love that clarity.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Makes life flow so much better.
Yeah, or just good ideas come to me, or if I read something that's complicated, I understand it more. I
Right.
don't have to struggle with thinking things.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So in conclusion, why should people undertake this task? It's a huge book. People open it and they're like, I don't even know what it's saying. This is too much. Like, what would you say to people who have that kind of response when they first see the course?
the thing is, do you actually really, really want to be happy and at peace? Do you actually want that? Because if you do, there is a way to have that.
Right,
Um, and it's not really that hard if you go one day at a time. If you look at
right,
the whole great big thing, it looks, maybe too much. But if you're only doing one page at a time,
right,
anyone can do that.
right.
And
And what
it's
about this idea of not understanding it? What do you think about that?
I didn't understand it when I first read it. I didn't understand a word of it, really. I didn't understand it. I don't think that matters, because it doesn't actually matter. I think what I think is that every single moment where I genuinely tried to understand or genuinely gave my attention to that book, every moment that I really tried my best, that moment got rewarded.
Right.
Even though my commitment has been, faulty and erratic, every bit of commitment I have had has had a result.
Right.
So if you could imagine, whatever commitment you can muster is worth having, because you will get some reward from that. And then when you get the reward, then it's much more motivating to do more.
Yeah.
'Cause
I've
if you,
even suggested to people that they just have the book around,
yeah,
that if they want to, if it intimidates them, that you just have it on your nightstand and you don't have to read it. Just look at it and go, okay, hi. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're there. Just a small willingness, right? That Jesus
Yeah.
talks about that in the course.
Yeah.
That
And
small willingness.
that small willingness, just have it next to you, just touch it, read a few pages or one paragraph.
Or
Yeah.
even a sentence, like if you just are willing to do, because I think what that demonstrates is that you know there's something you don't know,
Yeah.
right? That we all know that there must be something we don't know, or we'd be happier.
We're so dumb that we think that we know anything. Really don't know half as much as what we think we know. And that life is so much richer and more complex and so more abundant and so infinitely amazing than we have any clue of.
Right.
And we just limit ourselves so much by our preconceptions of that, how things are.
Yeah.
So a book like this opens a window into eternity. It opens a window into something other than that.
Yes.
And it's easy to get hold of, and it's in English. What a gift,
Right. Yes. Not in Sanskrit or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Well, just thank you, Tina, for your work. You're just
Oh,
such an amazing inspiration to so many of us, and so appreciate it. I know it's been a lot of hard work, but you've changed so many lives. So thank you.
oh, thank you. It's just been it's been my pleasure, and the truth of it is, when I'd done the course for 10 years, it dawned on me that people don't need to suffer, but they don't know they don't need to suffer.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was always my motivation, is if you train your mind, it won't hurt you.
Yeah.
And it becomes an asset instead of a liability. And it's such a simple concept. It's, we're so well trained to behave in Western society in particular ways, to see ourselves in particular ways. And it's very, very detrimental to our ability to create and love and be at peace,
And just to be happy, free, wild human beings, free range human beings,
Yeah.
we're all a bit different, not all the same. We're not all the same,
No, and actually, I think people look at the discipline of a course and think, oh, it's going to make your life boring. And I can
No way,
attest to
no
the
way.
fact,
No.
oh my God, absolutely not. And what I think the secret is it's freedom through discipline.
Yeah.
And there's an introductory phase of discipline where you're learning what your mind's doing and what your thought processes are doing, and you discover these super negative ideas that you have, or unloving habits of thought. But through the process of doing the lessons, you actually come to understand how you're shooting yourself in the foot all the time. And it teaches you how not to do it. And it's very simply that we're shooting ourselves in the foot all the time through this limited self-concept that we have, that we've been taught. School, religion, friends, family, TV,
We're so much more than that. We're so much more than all of that.
Right.
That's the first thing I say to everybody I work with is, destroy your TV, get rid of your TV. Television, tell a lie, vision.
And it's called programming for a reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Television programming, yeah. It's very
And
clearly
it's just
telling
so
you.
limiting. It treats us as though we're.
Yeah, it does. But we are programmable.
Yeah, but that's the thing, because we're trusting, and that trusting can be exploited.
Right. Right.
Is that our the fact that we're trusting and that we believe authority, believe things that are said to us, we believe them to be true.
Yeah.
You know, if someone says to you, no, you are a stupid person because you're only a woman and you're less than me. You know, if they say that to you when you're 5 years old, you believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you carry it with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a website, Alyss?
Yeah, Alyss Thomas Psychotherapy. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you do online work with people, or?
I do. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So if somebody feels a resonance with you, can they contact you there?
Yeah, they'll be very welcome too. We can just have a chat. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So Alyss Thomas Psychotherapy.
yeah, it's ALYSS. Yeah.
Alyss Thomas Psychotherapy.com.
.co.uk.
.co.uk. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Alyss. Lovely to see you. And I'm so happy that you've embraced this healing process. It's an amazing thing.
It's an amazing thing, and it continues. Yeah.
Yeah, it continues. Yeah, yeah. The gardens are a great teacher.
They certainly are.
Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.